It's not much to ask, is it? It's not much to ask. Justice. That's all we want. At the moment, the shocking reality is the people that have done this to Charlene Downs are still out there and they're laughing at us. They are laughing at us. Humiliating us in our own country. The police are complicit. They won't do anything unless, as I said before, united strength is stronger. Karen can't do it on her own. But she can do it with a political party behind her. And she can do it with the support of hundreds of people, because we will not let this go away. We'll be back up here again and again and again until we have the right result. And I don't know what it will take. I don't know what it will take. The turnout today was good. 100 people. 100 people. Looked impressive. Stopped the whole town. Everyone knew why we were there. Right? What about 1,000 people?
Yes. Yes.
What about 10,000 people? On coaches, in cars, in minibuses, paid for, coming up here to demonstrate.
How do we do it?
Let's see if they can ignore that. Let's see what kind of coverage we get from this demonstration. But I want you to go back and tell people from your community that where you've been today, what you've done, how you've stood solid with your own people, and you've got a bit of pride. You're a bit better than the others over there that say, oh, I better not go because I might get into trouble, might get arrested, or it's not my daughter, so I'm not really bothered. We've got a bit of pride. So next time, if things haven't resolved, let's work on 1,000 people. Let's see how that looks. Let's get out there, and there'll be no place in Blackpool big enough to be able to hold a meeting like this in the future, so we'll do it on the seafront. We'll have cameras there, and let's see where we go with that, because we're not going away. And one of the reasons we're not going away is because the local MEP has said he's going to do something about it. Right? Now, this is not an ordinary politician. Not an ordinary politician. Oh no, the establishment don't like this particular politician because he means what he says. Right? A very rare commodity. When Nick Griffin says something, he says it, he means it, because it's true. So, for our final speaker, your local MEP for the Northwest, Nick Griffin. Thank
you. Thank you very much. Well, as we've heard today, and particularly from Lynn's speech, it's admitted by the powers that be that this grooming problem has been going on at least 30 years. That's hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of innocent young girls have had their lives ruined, and their families have had their world torn apart, and the police, the courts, the media, the politicians, the whole bloody lot of them have sat and turned a blind eye because they're cowardly bastards. It's time to stop. Now, the British National Party have been talking about this since 2001. In 2004, we made a general election broadcast. You're allowed in this country, as long as you stand enough candidates, you get a 5-minute ration of democracy when you can put your message across on television. But our broadcast was about what was going on in the West Yorkshire town of Keighley, where there's a grooming epidemic going on, and the TV companies made us censor it. They wouldn't allow us to say anything about it. It went out, we had to cut out words, we had to cut out pictures, we had to cut out whole sentences and just have the wind whistling to make the public realise that this issue was being censored out. Now, if the BBC at that stage had decided, we're going to investigate this, we're going to get people to understand what's going on, so that pressure is put on the powers that be, however inconvenient it is, to have justice, to get something done, then thousands of young girls wouldn't have had their lives ruined. Did the BBC do that? No. Well, they did decide, we'll do a secret investigation. We'll spend tens of thousands of pounds of licence payers' money investigating what's going on here, and they investigated me and the British National Party, and they and West Yorkshire Police conspired to bring me to court to try to send me down for 7 years for talking about this issue and urging people, you want to do something about it? Don't go out there and throw a brick through some innocent Asian's window. It's not their fault. It's our establishment that's to blame. The only way to deal with them is to build a political organisation to stand up for the white working class. Then you get something done. But instead of investigating the problem, the BBC and the police investigated and persecuted us, not so much in order to persecute me and my family and put me to prison, but to silence all of you, to terrify all of the people out there so no one would talk about it. It wasn't an attack on me. It wasn't an attack on the British National Party. It was an attack on the entire British people. Which means that when we beat them and I walked free from court to those cheering crowds, it wasn't just a victory for me and the British National Party, it was a victory for all our people. And there's been a lot more free speech since then, because we stood up, we took them on, we beat them, and we won for our people. You can do it, and we will again. So, this problem had been going on 30 years, nothing was done. Why have things started to change? Why are they starting, finally, to arrest just a few? And OK, 9 went down for Rochdale. Excellent. What bothers me is that in that court case, they said that some of these girls were raped by hundreds of men. So why weren't hundreds of Muslim paedophiles in court? But why this change of heart by the establishment? Well, we've heard people talking about Andrew Norfolk, the Times journalist, admitting why the change of heart. Because it was being exploited by what he calls far-right political parties. Actually only exploited, only taken up by 2 groups of people. By the British National Party winning elections, and they didn't like that, and they decided, right, people are voting for them because they feel not allowed to speak, because they feel they've been gagged. So we've got to give them the idea there's nothing to worry about. You don't have to talk because the police are doing it for you. So have a few high-profile arrests of a handful of these perverts, and perhaps people will stop voting BNP. That was part of it. And the other thing, over the last couple of years, we've seen massive demonstrations by the English Defence League, by the infidels, by the casuals, and that has also frightened them and made them realise that something has got to be done. And the SDL. And those 2 things, the British National Party winning an enormous number of votes in elections where we're condemned by all the other parties, by all the media, by the police, by everybody, but we could still win seats, and the lads of the English Defence League marching on the streets in vast numbers, despite intimidation by the Muslims, by the left, by the police, and all the rest of these ratbags. And that also made them realise we've got a serious problem here, so we've got to pretend to do something about it. I'll believe they're doing something about it when every single town in this country where this is going on, those shops, those taxi firms had their doors kicked in, the perverts dragged out, DNA tested, right, put into court, put into prison, out of prison, on the plane home, back home. But it's not going to happen yet. We've got to carry on fighting for it. We've only just started the process, but we have started it. It's going to be very hard for them to put this genie back in the bottle. Now, it has been headlines in some places, in a few. Now people know. So 10 years ago in Keighley, parents were saying to me, is it a crime? Can anything be done about it? That's not happening now. People know it is a crime. They know something can be done about it. So we've broken the dam. And once the water starts coming through a breach in a dam, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But we've got to keep on making it bigger. And here's the problem. Quite frankly, over the last few years, 2-3 years, the powers that be, the establishment, they've learned how to block us. They blocked the British National Party winning elections by corrupting the entire electoral process. with their fraudulent postal votes, with the smears, with everything they've done. They've made it at present virtually impossible for us to win elections. It'll come back. We're mastering their techniques, but at present they blocked us. They blocked the EDL similarly by developing the technique of kettling people. So people know, I'm going to go on this demonstration, I'm going to spend 4 or 5 hours on a coach, I'm going to be shoved into a car park where there's no one there, we'll be held there for 15, 20 minutes, we'll be stepped back on a coach and back the other end. It puts people off. Because when you're having a demonstration, you are there to talk to the people, to hand leaflets to the people, to get the message across so that people can come in and listen as well. And when they won't let the public in, it blocks things. So with both the organisations have been blocked openly by corrupting elections and by the kettling, by the intimidation. We've also been blocked behind the doors by subversion. When you get home, Google the name Frank Gaffney. Frank Gaffney. Google that name and you'll discover a huge network of neocons and Zionists operating out of the United States but also in England, and the same people under the name Policy Exchange run the organisation Nothing British About the BNP, which has generated every single smear in every single newspaper in the last 3 or 4 elections, which has pushed the British National Party's vote down. So these people have taken us on with smears and lies to try to break our popularity with the public. Exactly the same people in the guise, and I mean exactly the same people, the same money bags, the same organisers under the guise of the International Civil Liberties Association have set about hijacking and twisting the English Defence League from an organisation created and supported by its members as something to prevent the Islamisation of Britain, something to protect British families from things like grooming and race attacks and the narco-jihad. It's been twisted and perverted from that into something which is there to get support for the most extreme elements of Zionism in Israel and to get British soldiers fighting in their wars. That's what's been going on. So they pushed us down and they've hijacked and they split the EDL. As I say, go and Google the name Frank Gaffney and you'll find the same thing. But the movement has survived. The British National Party is still here. As you see from the banners here, the infidels are still here. The Scottish Defence League are still here. All sorts of different groups of young and sometimes not so young men, but people with some balls. Real British men are still here and still fighting. We together are still here, and I'll tell you what, we are here to fight. But to do that effectively, we've got to adjust what we do. And the British National Party is partway through adjusting what we do. We will still be fighting elections. We're going to fight them smarter and smoother, and we're going to go back to winning elections. But we're not only going to be fighting elections. Hence, in recent months, this isn't the first demo we've had. We've had demos all up and down the country, with our fellows in Scotland particularly leading the way. We are a party not... We are a party which still intends to win and still will win by the ballot box, but our campaigning method is mainly going to be out there on the streets with our people. And the anti-Islamist, pro-British political, the pressure groups, the defence leagues, the infidels, all the rest of them. Whatever comes out of the current mess of Steve Lennon's thing, whatever comes out of it, the groups that emerge have got to learn and move as well. Fewer of these big, giant demos where everybody knows they're coming, the police know they're coming, it's all organised, it's kettled. A lot more flash demos. I'd sum it up like this. Less standing around in car parks, more shouting from the rooftops. That's what we need to see. Now, we also need a lot more local stuff, because we're in really hard times now. People can't afford to travel all over the country time and time again to make the point in a car park. We've got to do things locally. And also, when you're travelling somewhere, it's just your own mates, your own group. And it's good, but you're not reaching new people. We've got to reach out to and radicalise a whole nation. This isn't just about the people who vote British National Party. It's not just about the lads from the football teams, the followers, the fans, the casuals. We've got to reach out to ordinary people out there, the ones who are still asleep. We've got to reach out and wake them up. And we've got to involve them. And that's where ProFam comes in. I want to tell you, and we'll give these leaflets out at the end. This is just a sample, because this is going to be available online. This is the first thing from ProFam. What happens with the grooming, as we've heard? Well, typically, they hang around outside schools. Yep, 4 or 5 lads. 25-year-old perverts pretending to be 17-year-olds. They hang out around there, and they wait for these young girls. And then the grooming process starts with a cigarette, with a small bottle of vodka, with exchanging the phone numbers. And it leads on to gang, rape and heroin addiction and death. And we've got to stop it. Now, how to stop it? Here's what we're going to do. Right. Come on. This is the important bit. We need order now. It's the important bit. That's some discipline. This is where we're going to get things done. Because what we've got here is for any local community to do. So if you can see at the back, beware. Muslim paedophile gangs operate in this area. Right? Now, when exactly lampposts? There's 2 uses for lampposts. There's the eventual use that we should put lampposts to, and there's the present lamppost use. Now, ProFam got the idea for this local effective campaigning from the Muslims, because in a few places, particularly Balsall Heath. No, gents. Let's have some discipline, because we haven't got very long left. Right. The Muslims in Balsall Heath a few years ago had a problem with the black run prostitution in their part of Birmingham. Now, when English and Irish people in Birmingham had complained about it, the police didn't want to know. And actually, when the Muslims started complaining about it, the police didn't want to know. They didn't want to go up about the West Indian pimping gangs. So the Muslims started to do things themselves. And what they did, I've seen people here today taking pictures with mobile phones and small cameras, and they simply went out there and they took photographs and they took video clips, not of the tarts, not of the pimps, but of the rich businessmen in their flash BMWs and their Mercs. And then they traced from the registration numbers, they traced where they live, and they wrote to Mrs. Blenkinsop Smythe with a picture showing where her husband had been last Tuesday night at 12 o'clock. As a result of which, the trade stopped, the girls went, and they cleaned out that area. Well, good for them, I say. Good for them. But if it's good enough for them, and if the police can praise Muslims when they clean their area of antisocial scum, then how can they object when British people do it and clean our areas of antisocial scum? And that's what this will allow us to do. So you don't need to travel a long way. It doesn't need to be sophisticated. All you simply got is this poster goes up around the school, and on the back there's how you can help against Muslim paedophile grooming gangs. It explains what the problem is. You can help in 3 ways. I'll quote you. If you see any evidence of possible grooming activity, such as groups of Muslim men hanging around in cars outside schools, take photos or videos on your mobile. 2, call us and tell us what you know. Names, places, dates, car numbers. You don't have to talk to the police, just give us the evidence. 3, contact us if you can help join one of our child protection patrols. Because if once these go up and once the parents know, if they still keep coming, then the next stage is to have 3 or 4 people, or 4 or 5 people, or 10 or 12 people with video cameras right in their faces, through their car windows. And I'll tell you what with these people, if there's 4 or 5 of them and there's 1 white lad, they are very brave. They're very tough, because they like to fight in packs. But when there's 7 or 8 of our people around one of their precious cars, you know what they'll do? Put it in first gear straight off. They'll be gone and they will not come back. So let's move them on. And okay, it's moving on to another area. Well, actually, in a strange way, I don't mind that too much. Because when they're moved out of working class, poor areas that the police and the politicians don't care about, when they go and start picking on middle class areas, then the police will get to do something. Right? And as well as the local campaigns, there's going to be a lot more of this kind of thing. This is just the start. But get out there and use it. Profam isn't Lynn. It's not any individual. Profam is you. Profam is your neighbours. People who get involved with this kind of material. We've got to build it from the grassroots up. We've also got ideas, a national reach. We're going to be campaigning, a big campaign, for a public inquiry into grooming. A public inquiry into the failure, the abject failure of the entire political elite to protect girls like Charlene Downs, girls like Paige Shivers, to protect the thousands and thousands of victims. Because if it had been done to any other community other than ours, there'd have been a public inquiry decades ago, there'd have been war on the streets years ago, if it had been done to anyone except the stupid soft English. And we're going to be talking about the narco-jihad, because heroin is the last great taboo, exactly. It's the worst thing. It destroys people and families and communities, and heroin is not a British issue. Some of the lower level pushers are white trash. Some of the middle ranking people are blacks, but it comes from Afghanistan. It comes through the Muslim trade, and it's being used by them as a way to destroy our community and make money for themselves and their jihad against the British people, against our culture, our civilization, and it's got to stop. And the first thing about making it stop is breaking the taboo so it's talked about. Just as finally, on the grooming issue, it is talked about that this is some kind of Asian, or now it's just beginning to be seen as a Muslim problem. That's great. 5 years ago it was a taboo subject, now it's not. Together, we and our people broke it. Well, let's get set about breaking the taboo about heroin by shouting it literally from the rooftops. Heroin is a Muslim crime against our community and it needs stopping. And if you want to see a model here, you're going to see in due course, as this builds up, and it is going to build up over this summer, you'll see the mass media saying, oh, we're turning to the streets, people are preparing for violence. No, we are not. We are preparing to defend our community. I want to see the nationalist movement in this country operating like Greenpeace, operating like Fathers for Justice. Rooftop demos, high-profile operations designed to make people talk about and understand what the problems are as the first step towards doing something to sort them out. It can be done and we're going to do it. Now, the one last bit of kit I'll show you. If you think back, the old chaps in here, my age and above, and so on, and ladies, do you remember George Davis? George Davis is innocent, yeah? I can't remember who George Davis was now, but all through the 1970s, a period of 18 months or so, on railway bridges, motorway bridges, you got graffiti going up. George Davis is innocent. And in the days before the internet, I was asking people for months and months and months who the hell he was before I finally found out. But it made people ask and inquire. In the days of the internet, a campaign like that will be 10 times more effective, because people will Google it, then they'll tell their friends, and so on. So I don't want to see George Davis is innocent, but I want to see... We're going to see... I haven't got time, mate. Sit down, please. We're going to see stencils. Good for you. One of the rooftop chaps, so he's done it from the front. That's good. The police, sit down. Not the rooftop now. Right. Justice for Charlene, right? We are going to have these made in plastic as stencils for painting by the thousands. Now, of course, I can't and we won't for one moment condone people using this on other people's property. Oh no, you've got to use it on boards of your own. But if it gets into hands of people who do use it on other people's property, so that this goes up all over this country, there you go, all right, then we're going to have those stencils. That's going to make people talk. I want to see banners on motorway bridges. I expect the public will get the idea, and people, not us, will paint in bloody great letters, "Justice for Charlene." And people will ask, who's Charlene? And when people come online and they find sites about justice for Charlene, it'll lead them on to the whole bigger picture, onto the demand and the need for a full public inquiry, and on, most importantly, to the need to join together to build a huge grassroots movement to reclaim our streets for our people, our kids, our young girls. And I can promise the powers that be in this country that unless they start delivering justice and safe streets right now, then it is going to be a very long hot summer, the first of many hot summers, because we will go on campaigning. We will go on fighting until these wrongs are put right. And the watchwords I want you to take back from this conference and take out there to other people are united. The British can never be defeated. There will be no peace without justice. Thank you.